Good evening, everybody, and welcome to What's Up, Cuz. I'm your host, Jason Palmer, along with the coach. He's also my cousin, Lance C. Irvin. Cuz,
now we getting somewhere. What's up, cuz? Now we getting somewhere. Way to show your older cousin some respect. I might show you something today, but I know you've been through a tough week, so I'm going to leave you alone right now. Only for 5 minutes. I'm only going to give you a 5 minutes break. You know how I roll. Let's go get it. Let's go get it.
Well, as you can probably tell, you probably hear church bells in the background. For my little neighborhood here, I decided to do today's show from outside. When I had this bright idea, it was beautiful and sunny and 75 degrees, and now there's a storm rolling in.
But you know what, cuz? Let me say, your background is like you in a mini mansion out there. I mean, your stuff look nice.
Well, I appreciate that. I think you can credit the local condominium association for how it looks in the background. Because, I ain't lifting a feather. I ain't raking no leaves. I ain't shoveling no snow. That's why I picked a condo. So, yeah.
You're not supposed to when you balling like Jason Palmer.
It's more like Mrs. Palmer, but okay. So, how have you been? How was your weekend?
Man, because it's been a busy week. School started and just like the like MLB, NBA, the protests and stuff in Kenosha, like you and I talked about. It's been a busy week. I mean, it's been a busy week for everybody and a tough week at that also. So, I can't complain though, but at least I'm thinking there like, when will it get better?
Right.
At some point in time. I mean, it has to get better. They say you can't do this, you can't do that. Well, at the end of the day, Jay, I'm getting tired of them telling us what we can't do.
Right.
But at the end of the day, we have to be respected also.
Right. It's definitely been a tough week across the country. And, the thing is, sports is one of those things that sometimes serves as a distraction. Mm-hmm. It also serves those life lessons. And, me personally, I think right now is not the time to be distracted. I don't want sports to distract me. I want sports to help keep light on this issue that we're dealing with in this country. And those are two issues. One, the COVID-19 pandemic, which is currently ongoing, and also the social justice initiatives that are trying to take place around the country. So, I think sports has become just a part of those things and not a distraction of them. And I'm happy about that.
I am too. And I think sports is doing a great job keeping it on everybody's mind. Like whether you see the Black Lives Matter, or just seeing different things. But sports has really been doing a great job keeping the social justice issues on everybody's mind. And I can say I'm proud of the Milwaukee Bucks by the way they stood up and they represented it. Because I think it's tough, Jay, going out there, being the first to go out there. And I really do commend those players for stepping up and speaking out.
Yeah, I do too. And we're going to talk a lot about the social justice initiatives and sports that are going on right now around the country at 7:30 with our second guest tonight, Pastor Derrick Rice. He's going to come on and talk about a little bit of history of sports and social justice, and also talk about a lot of current initiatives that are taking place around the country. And also joining us today, we're going to actually talk some football. We have not talked NFL football, but the season is coming right up. It's hard to realize it, but you forget there was no preseason, which is usually your normal build-up. You get to see the guys on your team, what's going on, what to look forward to. But with no preseason, it's just going to be boom right out the gate for week one. So we got Kenneth Davis. He's going to join us at 6:30. We're going to talk all Bears from 6:30 to 7 o'clock. What do you think about that?
You know what? I love football. I wish I would have played. Your cousin had a good old throwing arm back in the day, back in high school, but I was too busy playing basketball. But I love football. I love the Bears. I love college football. So I can't wait to get Kenneth on to talk about the Bears. Khalil Mack.
Yeah, and I also know Uncle Mac wouldn't let you play football. So let's be honest. That was the one sport Uncle Mac wouldn't let nobody play.
He was smart. He was smart. But the one sport I wish we would have kept playing is baseball. Especially Mac, my brother Mac. I mean, Mac hit a home run so far out of Williamsport in the Little League World Series. That ball's still going. But you live and you learn.
Yeah, you do. You do. Well, hey, we got a poll question coming up. Remember, we are doing this show in conjunction with the Chicago Crusader Newspaper, and we are doing our weekly poll question. To see our weekly poll question, all you have to do is go to www.chicagocrusader.com. And this week's poll question. So I asked one that's sports related, but also kind of fun. All right. So let's put our poll question up for this week. Our poll question is, what is the best baseball, softball candy? Is it Big League Chew, sunflower seeds, peanuts, or Super Bubble? Those are your choices this week. Big League Chew, sunflower seeds, peanuts, or Super Bubble. Okay, Mr. Little League All-Star. You was an all-star pitcher. What was your candy of choice when you were playing baseball?
You know, when I was pitching, it was the Super Bubble. You know, I was going to take my time, but I had to quit because my father made fun out of me chewing. And my sister, she's like, out there chewing. The mama told me, stop chewing your gum like that. So when I played third, I used to chew on the sunflower seed. So I'm going to go with the sunflower seed.
Okay. So you're going with sunflower seeds. Okay, I'm going to go with Big League Chew. That was my candy of choice. A lot of guys really like the sunflower seeds too, but I needed something that I didn't have to keep spitting out every 5 seconds. And the Big League Chew, that gum kind of retained its flavor. So, I can go even further and say my favorite flavor was grape. So I went with Big League Chew grape. And, you can get a good wad in there. That lasts a good 4 or 5 innings, at least halfway through the game. Then you go get another wad.
You know what, Jay? You needed that. And the reason why I went to the sunflower seeds, too, because baseball, the game's long.
Yeah.
And I get bored from time to time. So I need something I could do for a little while. But like I said, your auntie, when I was chewing that bubble gum, her and Sandy was like, you chew like a cow. Stop chewing the gum. So those things were over with.
Oh, wow. Well, I hear you. So a lot of topics to discuss. Boy, it's been a busy Monday so far here today. Major League Baseball trade deadline. You had the Cubs and the White Sox that we were watching all day. And the White Sox chose to stand pat. They're just going to roll with the guys that they currently have on the roster. And this year it is a little bit different. The trade deadline is a hard deadline. And if you're going to make the playoffs, you need those people on your team by today at 3:00 Central Times. And the White Sox chose to not do anything. Cubs did make a couple of minor moves. They picked up 3 people here in the last couple of days. But they didn't make any, groundbreaking moves. The groundbreaking moves were made by the San Diego Padres and the Miami Marlins. My God, did you see some of the moves they made?
No, I missed the moves. What type of moves they made?
Well, San Diego traded just about all their prospects for Mike Clevenger. so they traded like 4 or 5 people to Cleveland. But they do have one of the, best pitchers out there. And the Miami Marlins, they traded Jonathan Villar, their talented all-star infielder, traded him to Toronto. But they went out and got Starling Marte, the outfielder from Arizona, and they added him to the mix to go along with that. Miami, they got a really young pitching staff, which is solid. Nobody was expecting the Marlins to be competing for a division title. But, they said, hey, we're going to be aggressive about it. So they started trading people. And then Toronto also made a couple of nice moves to kind of shore up where they are. They're chasing Tampa Bay and the Yankees in the American League East. So a lot of big moves were made today. The White Sox, I said, stood pat, and the Cubs made a couple of minor trades. They got Brian Goodwin. They also got Cameron Mabry. Right, they got Mabry from Detroit, and they got a pitcher from Boston who was with the White Sox last year, but he's not really anything to write home about. So for the most part, I think both Chicago teams just say, hey, we're going to roll with what you got.
So, Cuz, let me ask you a question.
Mm-hmm.
Are we good enough to beat the Yankees and the Dodgers? The Oakland A's playing well too lately, not too. So are we? I don't know, but I think the Cubs. I wish they would have got somebody with a bigger name, maybe. But we did need some relievers bad.
Yeah, they got 2 left-handed pitchers. The Cubs did. We'll see. I don't know.
I'm gonna tell.
I think the Cubs. They're in such a weak division this year. Fortunately for them, it doesn't look like anybody in the Central wants to compete. Because the Cubs, like we said last week, their premier players aren't really doing anything major, but everybody else is terrible. So
sub 200s. I can't wait for Joseph to come on and ask him, were they afraid to spend money?
Right, but I mean, there's still a talented team that they have over there. Maybe they're just banking that team is going to start hitting, and if they do, then they're going to run away with the division, and they could be a serious threat in the playoffs. In terms of the White Sox. I personally don't think they have enough, even though I don't think it'll be the Yankees. I think the Yankees, are going through what they always go through. They get all these injuries.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's going to be who's available for them in the playoffs. I still think the White Sox have to fight just to get in the playoffs because this division is tighter than we thought it was going to be. And, you got Cleveland, Minnesota, and the White Sox all there together. They got a big series against Minnesota starting tonight.
Mm-hmm.
So, all I can say is, you didn't make a move. You better be confident in what you have, and this is what they're going to roll with. So, all right, let's roll.
Let me add this, Jay, but they have won 11 out of the last 13.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they're playing with a lot of confidence. Is that good enough to win the whole thing? I don't know.
It is.
You think so?
I think it is. I think you got a young team, and, they haven't been there before, so nobody can tell them anything because they haven't been here before, so they just rolling with what they got. Ooh, might as well keep on winning. So, I think it could definitely pay off for them.
Mm-hmm. I mean, especially I think their pitching has been pitching better lately.
Yeah.
Lou pitched well last week. I mean, Dallas has been performing pretty good. So, I could maybe see why they stayed put. And like you said, their team is young and they've been hitting that ball. They've been hitting it.
They have. And, and I think the other reason they decided to stand pat was, there's a lot of economics involved in this too. And, we can't forget that these teams, they haven't made any money, without having no fans in here. So if you got some guys under control, if you got good young talent, you got it on the cheap, which is what the White Sox do because they've got long-term contracts with Moncada, with Eloy Jimenez, with Luis Robert. If the core of your team is locked in and you don't feel like you want to trade any of those prospects like Vaughn and Madrigal and Kopech, okay, hold on to them. You're just going to have a really strong team. I think they needed one more starting pitcher, but, I'm comfortable if they decide to stay pat.
Because I still think they're a year away, Jay. I think they're a year away, so I don't really mind them staying put. So we'll see. Time will tell.
Yeah, time will tell. But, we definitely want to hear from you all. And there are several ways you can do that. So, first of all, please download the app, SportsZone Chicago, okay? You can download the app on iTunes, the Google Play Store, and also you can get it at the Amazon store. So go ahead, download that app. My wife was so generous to buy me a new phone yesterday, so I'm charging it now. So the first thing I had to put on there is SportsZone Chicago. So I'm definitely smart move by me, right? And then the other thing, we want you all to get in contact with us during this show, especially this show. This is now our 8th show of the season. We will be off next week for the Labor Day holiday weekend, but we're going to spend like the last 15 minutes of today's show kind of talking with you all, hearing from those of you who've been watching the show, get some feedback from you. So let us know what you've been thinking about the show over these first 8 episodes. Can't believe it's been 8 already, but it has been. So you can get at us. Remember, you can tweet to us at SportsZone Chi or get us on Instagram at SportsZone Chicago. So please go ahead, let us know. And also you can type your comments on the screen if you're watching us on the YouTube streaming or if you're watching us on Facebook Live. So please, you are just a bigger part of the show as all the guests we have on here, but we would love to hear from you. But should we bring on our first guest?
But hold on one second, because you know how we always start off the show. What kind of shirt you wearing today?
So today, I am representing Reef Records.
Reef Records, that's
Reef
unique.
Records. Not far away from me here in Antioch, Illinois. Yeah, the home of the killer. But Reef Records here in Antioch, they sell nothing but vinyl records. Anything you need from 78s to 45 to 33s, the classics, new songs, because a lot of people don't know the record industry is actually coming back, the actual physical record industry. Yeah, it's actually like a big little market for it now. I actually bought the turntable 2 weeks ago and played a lot of my mom's old records. So I've been listening to Sam Cooke, Stevie Wonder, a lot of old school jazz and blues, which you can hear on wax. And so the record industry is coming back. So I'm out here representing Reef Records in Antioch. Please check them out. They got a wide variety of songs. So that's what I got on today. What you rocking? Legalize something.
Man, legalize being black.
No.
Time represent. I think I got you today. Legalize being black.
I thought you had legalized weed on there or something. I was going to call.
No, never that. But you and I need to go into business and get us a company.
Say, I don't smoke it, but I'll take the money. I hear you. I hear you. So that's what we standing on today. Let's get ready to bring in our guy. As you know, we always bring him in for the first segment of the show to catch up what he's got going on and talk about the daily news topics from the Chicago Crusader Newspaper. He is the sports editor, Mr. Joseph Phillips. Joseph, how you doing, brother?
What's up, cuz? How are you?
Guys, God bless. How y'all doing?
Doing great. I can't complain. Just listening to old Reef Records talk over there.
Oh man, that's cool, man. I see y'all representing y'all brands.
Try to. I see you representing yours too today, Joe. I see you got your shirt on. You know your collar shirt.
Patterns, man, you know.
I like that.
Thank you. Just moved into the new place. God is blessed, you know. So this is a different background today. As you can see, the Peloton bike is like further back now. Space now.
Hey, Lance, Joseph upgrading, man. Look how big his space is now. You got he got an echo when he talked to us now. He got more square footage.
What's up, cuz? Y'all can hear me out the window, right? I'm on the night.
Business is good.
That's good, man. It's always a blessing when you and your wife can move into a new place. I know Sharice and I were happy with our place when we made our move last year. So congratulations on that.
Thanks, brother.
Right.
Thanks a lot, man.
What you got going on this week in the Chicago Crusader Newspaper that everybody needs to know about?
Oh man, it's first. Let's start just in relation to your family. What's up, cuz? You know, and your brother. You know, I got a call from the AD. Coach Gill, he called me, said, Joe, where you been? I said, I've been working. He's like, I got a story for you. I was like, what's going on? He says, we just hired Mike Irvin as the new head coach of the boys basketball team. I want you to get the story. So I was like, okay. I was like, wait till I talk to Lance. And
Jason kept that quiet.
Yeah, too cool, you know. Got the breaking news. Then I got a chance to talk to Mike a little bit. We hit it up. And man, bro, he's just talking about just the importance of marrying you guys' resources with Hyde Park and Kenwood, you know, and man, like this is unbelievable. Like we were talking about this a few weeks ago, just about how Kenwood, you know, they're trying to get over that edge, trying to be that next team on the rise. Mm-hmm. And what a perfect hire, man! Like, hey, you got a chance to do some great things, man, especially with the community in Hyde Park. I'll be at every game, trust me.
Yeah, I thought this is a great move for cousin Mike, and congratulations to Mike Irvin getting that head coaching job at Kenwood. Kenwood has always been a jewel in the community, and the athletic programs have been coming up in the past few years, and I think Mike is definitely going to push them to that next level because I think they're getting the talent, and now you got a coach with some backing, and I'm very proud of my cousin Mike. So I think we all are.
Yeah, definitely shout out to Mike. I mean, I think he has everything that he needs to be a really good coach. And the one thing I could say about Mike, he cares about the kids. And that's first and foremost. And when you coaching, you have to care about the kids. And wishing them the best. I'm sure he's going to make the family proud. Or it's going to be rough when you come home. Rough on holidays. Trust me, I know.
I do too. What else you got, Joe?
Oh man! And then following that, I did a piece on Ladies First Sports Agency, and this is a young lady. I think her name is Miss Jordan. She started her own sports agency and launched a professional women's sports league. She's an alum of Simeon, and she's doing great things. Her slogan is turning girls into women. And that girls aren't tomboys, but they're women. You know, like she got her own little slogans and her hashtags. And she kind of just, hey, we can still be ladies and hold it down and still do our work with quality and productivity. So, shout out to Miss Jordan who's doing a great thing over there. I'll be doing a story on her. And then following that story, I did a story on Jackie Robinson Day in commemoration of the 75th anniversary of, and I know most people is like, well, I thought it was the 73rd. Well, it's 73 years since his debut, but 75 years since he signed his first professional contract. And that's what I talk about in the story, because I know a lot of people like, why are you leading with 73 or 75? And I told them, I said, no, we're about to inform the public that it's actually 75 years when he became a pro, even though he had to go through the minors for 2 years and learn the game. But they had to slowly bring him through the system to test him to see if he was going to be that sacrificial lamb for African Americans, so that we can integrate the game that we love the most, America's pastime, and that is baseball.
Right, and if I remember correctly, he played in minor leagues in Montreal. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yeah, and that's what I was telling Mr. Lanny today. I just said, yeah, in Canada, I was like, they were throwing black cats on the field. Even though that was a place of escape for most African Americans. Right. Jack Johnson, he just been pardoned, but my whole thing was that, that was one of the first places he ran to get out of America.
Oh, Canada.
Yeah. Given his unforgivable blackness, the rise and fall of Jack Johnson.
Yeah, without a doubt. Canada's always been a good place for our people, going back to Harriet Tubman and even before that. A lot of people don't know it wasn't just enough to get to the north. Because, they come up here and catch you, they'll take you back to the South. Damn the law. They were breaking the law anyway. So those who really wanted to be secure said, I'm going all the way up to Toronto.
Yeah, right. They was the smartest lad. They was like, look, if ain't no boats, we getting over there on ice glaciers. We'll be up out of here. We out of here. I'm playing with me.
Yeah. So
family.
Yeah, so Joe, let's talk about your Cubs. They had a couple of moves here at the trade deadline.
I love it, man. I love it, even though I know that they're kind of restrained on their budget. Like I said, our first big move was landing Mr. Martinez, former St. Louis Cardinal. Big bat, some crushed lefties, had a 319 bat line against him. And then, we added some pitching, but I think the strategy behind the pitching, even though they were like, low-cost guys and everything, they're good against left-handers, which can help us down the stretch when we face off against a Christian Yelich or Mr. Winker, so we don't want no problems with them. So we want to get some lefties in there that can get lefties out and won't be giving up meatballs, like they did to Luis Robert on Sunday. You can see the ball selling. We still selling out.
Right. And then today the Cubs, even added some more minor moves, but added a couple outfielders. I really like adding Goodwin. I think that'll be a big piece for the Cubs. The pitcher they got from Boston, he's not a major move there, but I think they need some help in that outfield too.
Yes, they do. They added Mabry. I think Cameron Mabry.
Cameron Mabry, yeah.
And actually, he just got us last week because Detroit laid it on us last week. They was like, we're American League. Our worst team could be one of the top 10 teams in the NL because of the DH rule. So they're conditioned to hit that way. You see what I mean? So they can they can turn it on, score 5 to 10 runs just like that if you got the wrong pitcher in there. So what Cameron Mabry has always been, he's always been a good professional. We brought him in because Steven Susan Jr. has a right leg strain. And, it's going to take some time for him to get back. So we need to add, a veteran back just in case he needs some more time to heal. And then we got some brothers on the team too. I like because the Cubs, we need more brothers. I know Jay Hay holding it down. He has 2 home runs on Sunday, but I think we do need a little bit more brothers. And like a Dexter Fowler type of cat, that can come in and do his thing, and just lay low and keep doing what he's doing,
You know what? For us to still be saying that we need a couple of us, come on, y'all.
Right.
Seriously, though. I mean, and you pick who you pick, and you put out there who you put out there. But
right.
I mean, it's 2020.
Yeah.
But with that being said, Jason Hayward did have a great weekend. I think his batting average is slowly starting to creep up. But one thing about the Cubs, like Jason was saying earlier, the sub 200 batting averages are killing me, Joseph.
And this is
they lost 2 games last week too.
That's true, and this is our April. August is our April because the Cubs they start off like that, and I'm surprised they still in first place with those horrible bat numbers. But the key thing that's keeping them afloat is their on base percentage, their OPS. Okay. Like so they getting you in the 800, 900 range. You're doing other things than just slugging the ball out of the park. And then you hitting the occasional 2-run shot, 3-run shot. You get good pitching performance. The only weakness that I see right now, like I said, is that bullpen. And one bright spot that I did like on Sunday was to see Jose Quintana come in relief and do his job. Because remember, I was asking you guys, I said, hey, man, we need some long relief in there. We can, put the bullpen position, the closers in position to finish off the game, so they won't have to be wearing at their arms with any, with extra innings. So if we can get Quintana in that long relief position, probably add another starter somewhere here and there from the minor league. We can bring up Marquez. You never know. Bring him up, see what he can do in a short season. Throw him out there, and hey. Let's see what works. We got both teams in first place, Cubs and Sox. Beautiful week.
Yeah, I agree. I think the Cubs, keep Kimbrel is still Kimbrel. He blew one over the weekend. That stinks. I'm wanting to see how long they're gonna keep the leash for him. What are you thinking at this point?
Man.
Yeah, well, right now, like I said, I thought Kimbrel was damaged goods. Whenever you ask for that type of money, sometimes you can get complacent, and the dangers about having that type of money, you start changing things up. You feel you arrived. So guys, the things you used to get away with, you no longer can get away with. When you threw a 98-mile-per-hour fastball, now you're throwing 95, 94. You see what I mean? They catching up to it, and then you have no control on the mound. You're walking a lot of guys, so it's not a good look. But he was making some type of strides. He was making some type of improvements over the last 4 or 5 days. I saw him actually get his first save of the season. And then David Ross put him in a situation where he had to come in and relief. And I think he went back into that same mentality where he was rushing to the catcher, and not just taking his time and throwing his pitches like Darvish is doing. Like you is an example of mentally, if you feel you ain't got it going, just take a step off the mound and recover. You see what I mean? Just keep pounding it away in the same area and walking guys. Chatwood the same way. Now he's injured because he's practicing bad mechanics, and now he's getting back to the very thing that got him in the situation in the first place.
Yeah. So we'll see what happens here. Let's again, we're here with Joseph Phillips, sports editor for the Chicago Crusader Newspaper. We got you for a couple more minutes here before our break. Let me just ask you about the White Sox real quick. They did not make a move today with the trade deadline. We were wondering if they were going to try to pick up another starting pitcher or perhaps even an outfielder, because Nomar in right field hadn't given us anything after we got him from Texas. So I was hoping we'd get somebody. What do you think about the White Sox deciding to stand pat?
Well, we were on the Sean Myers show this morning, and I was telling them, man, y'all should have went after Clevenger. Like I said, I think this squad that y'all got now, y'all can definitely compete for a World Series. Who said there's going to be a season next year? You see what I mean? Like, the time is now. Go for it. Like I don't understand why we're staying pat unless y'all got some type of commitment to Kopech. But like I said, Kopech has been like the shiny little toy. That he can throw 107 miles per hour when he's healthy and everything, but he's not a proven starter. And Clevenger is actually a proven starter. He was like 22 with a 3.22 ERA. And now, if you would have added him along with Dane Dunning, I mean, you guys would have had like y'all can pretty much just cancel the division, and y'all would have put the Twins on lockdown.
Yeah. We'll see. We'll see.
A guy that's throwing 100.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll come back and talk about it a little bit more. We're gonna take our first commercial break. You're watching What's Up, Cuz. We'll be right back.
See me. See me.
See me. See my dark skin and my kinky hair.
See me. Don't see past me.
Don't see through me.
See me.
See my tan skin and my curly hair.
See me.
Don't see past me.
Don't see through me.
See me.
See my face, wet with tears from years of oppression.
See my hands, weathered and worn from decades of pulling myself up through your society.
See my feet, split from centuries of walking your delicate line.
See me.
See me.
See me.
I'm tired.
I'm tired.
I'm tired.
Welcome back, everybody, to What's Up, Cuz. I'm your host, Jason Palmer, along with my cousin, the coach, Lanny Irvin, and we're joined by Joseph Phillips of the Chicago Crusader Newspaper. Remember, we do have a poll question this week. We do have a poll question, and you can check out our poll question at www.chicagocrusader.com. We asked a lovely question. What is the best baseball/softball candy? Is it Big League Chew? Is it sunflower seeds? Is it Super Bubble? Or what is our final one? Peanuts. Those are your choices. Go on to ChicagoCrusader.com. And we're going to bring in our next guest here. Joseph's going to stay with us. We're going to bring in our next guest. You're going to love this guy. So, first of all, you're going to love this guy because of his voice. We always talk about it. Everybody say he's Barry White. I don't think he's Barry White. I think he like Keith David from Greenleaf. That's what I'm going to roll with. So, but he is a fan and a friend of all the shows here at SportsZone Chicago. He is the co-founder of We Are Regal Radio, WARR. He's an independent sports media and the D&Davis show, along with the Flip. This guy does everything in medium. We love him. Kenneth Davis is here. Ken, what's up, bro?
Finally made it to What's Up, Cuz. And the crazy part, I was going to ask why was the show named What's Up, Cuz, but I see why it's named What's Up, Cuz. I didn't know if we were all with Joseph's shirt, if we was crippin'. I was like, they crippin' in Chicago, right? Oh, okay. And then I see Lance. What's up, Lance? We haven't gotten a chance to meet. I see Lance's shirt because at first I'm like, oh, he got the legalized weed joint. And then I see some of his like being black. I couldn't see the whole shirt. So I had on my shirt, because first of all, Joseph, I want to know if you have on your shirt from this morning, because I know how you are. You fancy with yours. You may have switched up. This is what I had on when I just came into the broadcast studio. But then y'all played the I'm Tired clip, the webcam series. So I had to throw this black joint because we ultra black, I see. I didn't want to be out here in this all pastel color. And we need to be going, Okay. But yeah, man. What's going on, guys?
Oh, man.
You got many things. Lance, you muted, bro.
Hey, kid, I love your style already. See, you came on here right. You came on here with
I had to flip.
You got the black on like I had my black.
I had to flip.
Those other two, especially the one talking about getting rid of my pitcher that's throwing 100 miles an hour. That's young. That's barely 20. He's talking about getting rid of him. I couldn't believe he said that. I couldn't wait to get him out the commercial.
Let's be honest what this really is, right? And I don't know Jason if he's from what side of town he roots for, you know what I'm saying? But I got Joseph, right? So really was trying to do is trying to break up our reign, right? Again, I'm like this with Kopech. Let me be honest.
Let me
mentioned this earlier on Sean and Mike. I don't think it's something to play around with when you're talking about what's going on in someone's head. And I don't think any of us know exactly what's going on with Michael Kopech. Do know that he's recently divorced and the situation's going on with his soon-to-be ex as far as being pregnant. We don't have the full story with that. So if that's it, I understand that. But then we also know that he's kind of had issues in the past. And it's similar to someone, and I tried to mention, I forgot the name on Sean and Maya, like Zach Greinke as far as anxiety and different things like that. So you don't know. And I'm not saying that's where you get rid of somebody. But I do also believe, and I don't know if it was Jason or if Joseph has said it, but the White Sox probably told him, like, yeah, we're not, like, yeah, you're going to sit there and not play. We're going to send your ass away. You know, they probably have given him assurances that everything was going to be fine. Now, I said this to Jason earlier. A bird in the hand is better. Like, so I get it. And what logic dictates is you should, quote unquote, try to get a World Series this year. But one, I'm not the biggest on the Rona World Series. All right, because listen, but they already don't play White Sox World Series on ESPN. They don't even acknowledge that the White Sox won the World Series on ESPN when they post World Series champions, right? People are gonna poo-poo the Rona World Series so hard. Look at Joseph. You can see it in his face. He'll sit there. But again, yeah, it'd be cool. I would like to win this year and win more down the line. But nah, dude, I'm not with giving up anything right now. And I, like I said earlier, partially it's because of the Fernando Tatis deal. I'm still shook up. I hate to see anything about the Padres, the young man, the most. But let me hold on to this and let's see what we can do. If we can get a player, and I know that would mean the season is over. Another pitcher in this offseason. No, man, no. For me, and I can clearly say if I'll be wrong. Stand pat. And guess what? Jason? They didn't do it. They didn't do it.
And I think I'm very comfortable. I'm very comfortable with that, Ken. You know, I would have liked to see them get, starting pitcher or all season. But the other thing that we don't know is what were other teams asking for? What was the asking price? And if that asking price was way too high, then you do exactly what Rick Hahn did, and you just sit on your hands and say, no, I'm going to roll with what we got. And I think, and Coach Lance, you can respond to this, I think psychologically, by them doing nothing, it sends a positive message to those players who are currently on the team that, hey, we believe in you guys, and we think we've got enough already.
Man, I think it does. But you know what helps all that, though? Winning more. So I think some of the guys probably was like, man, it's cool. We stay right here. Everybody, we singing Kumbaya. But some of the guys might have been chanting, like you guys were saying earlier, what's wrong with right now? And my thing is that listening to everyone talk is this, the financials. Like, are we spending money or are we not going to spend money to win right now? You know what I'm saying? I think that's always key because you brought that up early, Jay, from a financial standpoint, and they have long-term contracts too. But the betting last, Irvin, if I had money, I might have found me a pitcher because I'm trying to win right now because who knows about tomorrow.
Right.
But I understand why they stayed put, though.
Yeah, and so I mean, I agree with Joseph too. I agree with Joseph's thing. He was like, yeah, go ahead and move Kopech if you can move him and get you Cleffinger. So, I'm with you, Joe, on that. I could have went with it either way.
Yeah. And like I said, hey, what good is it to have a nice car if you can't drive it? You see what I mean? Like, and I'm not trying to take shots at Kopech because I know he's getting better, and I hope he gets better. But you got a job to do, and whether it's you or not, what I'm saying is that he's not a part of this season's plan. Mm-hmm. And I know y'all thinking long term, but who says that everybody's gonna be healthy next year? Who says that you guys are gonna be in this position next year with the momentum that you have, in addition to getting good pitching from Dane Dunning. Who's almost like a little version of the professor. Giolito giving a no-hitter. That's World Series stuff right there. These are World Series attributes that
here we go.
Normally I don't make an appearance. I just sit back here. I just sit back here and push buttons.
Come on,
but Joseph is talking now, and I'm gonna tell you what I'm hearing from a Cub fan. You're salty about Cease and Jimenez, and you just want us to give up some real talent in Kopech. We gave up stuff to get Kopech, so he's not going anywhere. And his starts, Joseph, FYI, were really quality starts. Him and Dunning is what we've been waiting for. Cease, decent. We're not moving Kopechs. You can stop that wishful thinking that he could possibly land on the north side or some other place. It's not happening. Now I'm going to go back in my lane. Bye.
Come on, Joseph. Come on, Joseph. Don't let it jump off the screen before you get it. Come on, Joseph.
All I got to say is this. Y'all don't have to listen to me. And y'all have logic. One thing I can say about White Sox fans, y'all understand logic. Y'all don't believe in fairy tales. It's either you produce or you don't produce.
This is true.
And y'all, and the evidence is go to the games, okay?
Mm-hmm.
On dog nights, you're going to see 2 fans and you're going to see over 1,000 dogs. What I'm saying is that at the end of the day, and I'll just be honest, I'm a South Side.
I'm going to let Ken get you. I can tell how Ken's shaping up. Go ahead, Ken.
All I'm saying is, I'm just telling the truth, bro. This is good.
Can we get along here?
I'm going to enjoy this ride. Go ahead, Ken. The floor is yours, Ken. I'm enjoying this ride right now.
Oh, I'll say this. I mean, because you are taking many a shot low key. You are low key letting it off. Like if we're at the dinner table, you are shooting all up under the table, basically. Well, let's get back to the Dane Dunning professor thing. Now listen, if Dane Dunning has a career similar to the professor, I'm cool with that. But stuff-wise, you can't compare the Tinkerer with Dane Dunning. All right, like, and again, Dane Dunning is not Hendricks at all. All right, so he's not Hendricks, proven commodity. So I'm not taking anything away from him. But looking at stuff, like if you gave Hendricks his stuff, whoa, look out! Like you're talking about Cy Young type of stuff. But again, we're talking about still right now and Dunning an unproven commodity. All right, then listen, you're right. The White Sox fans don't show up. All right, they don't, but we would have this year. Like, and you start just my friends getting season tickets this year, and I would have, but they was gonna be sitting in the sun. I burn. I can't sit in the sun like that, right? I do. I went to a White Sox game and forgot the sunscreen and literally my arm bubbled up. You know, I'm on the third base side in the shade for the most part, but no, I can't do it. But the Sox fans would have showed up this year. That is one of the worst parts of being in this COVID situation, that we couldn't bring the jubilance that those players deserve to have around them, especially since they've been going through the drugs of losing for so many seasons. But we good, like, listen, we good over here. Look, you got yours.
I just saw y'all some
I'm going to do you a favor, Joseph. I'm going to let you go, Joseph, so that you get to come back next week. Because
the real fear is this. This is the real fear. You want to tinker with it because the real fear is, what if they get 2? Or not even that. What if they go to 2 and win 1? Y'all just don't want us to do what y'all was supposed to do when y'all had more talent. You still got a
No,
it's just a lot of hate.
We want to play y'all. We want to play y'all in the Crosstown Classic World Series. So it's just like WWE. You know, we need the Vince McMahon to hype this thing up. You know, we need the Vince McMahon to write the narrative. You know, we got to build this thing up. The Yankees and the Mets did it. When was this, Jason? When did the Yankees and Mets? 2000?
Oh, yeah, like 2000. Wow.
Yeah, you know, like, it's time, bro. What better time to do this right now?
I don't know if you're Vince McMahon, though, man. I think you're more like Gene Mullins right now. So
what about Mean Gene Oakland?
Mean Gene. So. Hey, Joseph, thanks for checking in with us, though. We appreciate it. We'll check in with you next week. Once again, check out his work on ChicagoCrusader.com.
Peace.
All right, Joseph.
All right, kid, let's talk some NFL. Let's talk some Bears, man. Yeah. Football season get ready to kick off here in a couple of weeks. We've had absolutely no preseason, so none of us know what anybody is doing. We don't know half the players on the team. We don't, it's a lot of uncertainties going into the season. We don't even know if the season will make it to its conclusion with COVID out there, what the protocols are. I have a fear the referees and officials, because they don't have a preseason either. And we know every year the NFL does new rules, and it takes the refs that preseason plus a couple of regular season games, if we're being honest, to really kind of get caught up to speed and for all the players and coaches to understand what is going to be called and how it's going to be implemented. So I have concerns about the officiating. Just talk to me about, in general, what are we expecting from this 2020 NFL season?
That's a good point right there, Jason, as far as the officiating. I hadn't even thought about that. I expect a decent team. I expect the team to perform better than it did last year, but I do think the fact that they don't have a preseason, and you're talking about new coaches when it comes to the offensive line, just different positional coaches. And we saw last year with a guy that's pretty good, and Harry Hested, and the disconnection between him, allegedly between him and Matt Nagy, that perhaps it hurt the running game, but that's if Matt Nagy really wants to run the ball. Defensively, I'm looking forward to it, even with Eddie Goldman being gone because of the bringing in Robert Quinn. I don't think it's going to cover up from not having that initial push in the center of the line. But I still think when you can commit more pressure, this pressure that Leonard Floyd never brought, we always heard about, how a hybrid that Floyd was. But outside of really like his rookie year and some parts during the second year where he seemed unstoppable, but he would always get hurt, you never got what you wanted out of him. And I'll tell you this. One of my concerns is the fact that, and I'm a Matt Nagy fan. I used to say I love Matt Nagy. I'm a fan. It's the concern of GM and Ryan Pace and Matt Nagy on trying to prove a point. One, and this is most GMs, Ryan Pace wants to prove that he makes the right pick. Matt Nagy to prove, quote unquote, his football genius, because you can't show your genius if you're not throwing the ball. One thing I always say when I come on here, if you're not a Shanahan, you don't show genius by running. Guys try to show their genius by throwing, but you should always go back to the fundamentals. And in doing that, it's twofold with both of them. Matt Nagy with David Montgomery and trying to prove that he made the right pick, which I'm not saying David Montgomery is not the right pick. David Montgomery has shown a spectacular amount of effort. So much so that I worry about him getting hurt on him trying to get extra yards because he's leaning and spinning and he's basically leaving himself out there to get hit. All right. So I don't think lesser of David Montgomery, but, and I will go meatball with this. I don't understand why they wouldn't look to bring in a Leonard Fournette. I mean, you could tell me it's the system. And in saying that, I know he's not the prototypical type, but he caught 70-something passes last year, and he's going to come in cheap. And you could solve two issues. One, you need to run the game, and with a groin injury, David Montgomery's going to be out, right? Mm-hmm. But two, they lack a physicality, and think about young Andy Reid, and I'm not saying that Matt Nagy is Andy Reid, but like Philadelphia Andy Reid, and how the thing you used to always want him to do was commit to really running the ball. Because even with Brian Westbrook going crazy, it was more through the passing game necessarily than the running game. Like and initially when he got there and they had like Deuce, yeah, they were running the ball, but that's because they didn't have a good quarterback. After Donovan showed that he can master the West Coast system, it was about Andy Reid trying to show how cold Andy Reid's play calling is, whatever. But look at the Super Bowl this year. When you look at the fact that Patrick Mahomes had the yips all the way to the fourth quarter, that was clearly his worst game in the professional football. But you know the difference between Andy Reid back then and now? He went to the fundamentals and kept the game tight instead of keeping trying to throw the ball and trying to prove something until Patrick could get back on his horse and win the rest of the game. And the problem with the Bears is, the problem is you look cold when you're right. It doesn't matter if that's your initial plan, but you have a David Montgomery, and this year you just juice Fournette. And I'm not saying use both of them, but this kid may be hurt off and on throughout the season. It's a groin injury. All right, he's a running back at that, right? So he's clearly, but you need it. And I know people will bring up Jordan Howard. Dog, you need to hit people in the mouth, especially when you look at this offensive line and you don't know what you have. You need a guy that can get an extra yard on his own with a defender right in front of him. Now, I know Fournette may not be the best teammate, but if your locker room is as strong as that Bears locker room, he's just a running back. This isn't like bringing in AB, where AB being the
dominant
big kid. Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's different from a quiet running back who just want to get paid and may not feel like it some days. So with me, and I like what they're trying to do, but I feel like their ego's getting in the way of them succeeding to the point where they could succeed at.
You know what? One thing that you said, Kenneth, that I like was that I remember calling Jason last year, and I said, Jay, what's up with the play calling? Like, why are we not running the ball? I think we put Mitch in too many pass situations, and it wasn't right last year. So can you talk about the running game? Because I thought we should have picked up Leonard Fournette also, especially with Montgomery hurt, like you said. And then the offensive line, I like Daniels up front, but talk about how you think we need to be more physical, like you said, because I do agree with you on that. I'm not sure what we have on the line. But the one thing we were inconsistent last year.
Mm-hmm. I mean, again, that goes a lot to do with Matt Nagy. And I for people that aren't a fan of Matt Nagy, I understand. But I do think there's something there, and I could be wrong after this season. And I'll come out and say I was wrong. I thought initially the Yu Darvish deal wasn't a bad deal at that period in time for how little he signed. At that time, 125 for Yu Darvish wasn't crazy. But until last season, he didn't click in. And right now, in a way, I still lose if I say that Yu Darvish deal was correct, because he still hasn't brought to what the Cubs expected. You know, but when you brought up Phillip Daniels, man, I feel sorry in a way because them moving the kid around. All right, us hearing that he wasn't necessarily loud enough playing center. But Cody Whitehair, listen, Cody Whitehair's a good center. He's just bad when it comes to getting the ball to the quarterback. Like.
It is kind of an important job of the center, though, Kenneth.
Right. It's just the weirdest handle. How especially in shotgun. That's one thing. But you know, I like it. It goes to what I said about Eddie Goldman. I like how stout Cody Whitehair is in the initial push, and I like how stout but also disruptive Eddie Goldman is at the hike, you know, and you need that one to run and also to stop the quarterback from stepping up into the pocket. But so I like Cody Whitehair being there, but it also falls on Ryan Pace with what you said that we're going to get out of having James Daniels there. I don't say Philip. I may forget on it. I think Philip Daniels. No, he used to be the used to have way back in the days that they came from Seattle, I believe, and he wasn't right then. He went to Washington. The slurs. But when you're talking about James Daniels, but then getting back to the running game, and this is the thing too when you really think about the running game, what you just said when you called Jason, and you said they put Mitch Trubisky in too many situations. Mitch Trubisky's best option is to play action pass. But in all fairness, that's what Foles does best. Remember in Philadelphia, the year after they won the Super Bowl, Carson Wentz was upset because they were running some plays that he felt were simplified compared to the system that when he was almost going to win the MVP before he tore his ACL. And that was allegedly some of the reasons that him and the players kind of fell out, because they just wanted him to stick to the script. Foles listen, he can make accurate reads. He's a play action guy. And how are you going to run play action with Tariq Cohen, some undrafted rookies, all right? Patterson, who is, dude, a tall-ass trick guy. And I like him. Don't get it wrong. But Minnesota had –
That's true, but in all fairness, though, they're saying this year though that they are planning on using Patterson more in the running back position. So that could be the extra wrinkle that Matt Nagy is kind of holding close to his chest, that he's not telling everybody that, you know, we're going to see Cordero running more traditional running back plays because he is a very versatile player. So I think maybe that is what Nagy is kind of playing.
My only thing with that, and I'm a huge Cordero Patterson guy, and I thought Matt Nagy didn't use him in space last year. I thought he was going to have packages to put him in space and do his thing. But you're talking about a tall guy coming through those tackles, and also he has the propensity to bounce it on the outside, and also he doesn't know necessarily, it's not a knock on him, the nuances of running the ball as a running back. So I'm not saying you don't use him in some capacity, but you at least need from one guy to get you 15 carries, and that's not going to be Tariq Cohen. All right, so when you look at the fact that you need to get to play action passing, if you're not running the ball and the run's not working, we don't believe you. You need more people. All right, so I'm not going to sit there and bring 8 in the box to stop the run because you're not running on me right now. So we're going to sit in the back and Mitch Foles, you're just going to have to prove to me what you could do because I'm not falling for the play action.
So what about the wide receiver? I like Robinson, but who else do we really have at the wide receiver spot? You guys correct me if I'm wrong, but go ahead, Ken.
No, listen, I'm Roll Tide, so through relations, just like you guys are cousin, they're brothers. Through Calvin Ridley, I like Riley, and that's just because they're brothers. All right, they basically got the same guy when you think of Wims, Riley Ridley. Big guys who perhaps can run routes, but aren't necessarily guys that can separate. And you already got a big guy over there when you're talking about Allen Robinson, right? Who can separate. The problem is we can't count on Anthony Miller. And I know we all did it last year when he got hurt. And you looked at it, he was like, is it the shoulder? and it's the shoulder. And I mean, again, there's enough surgeries now that you could probably fix that problem. But how many of us have known people that have popped their shoulder and that bad boy always kind of pops out? You know,
Right.
So for me, they haven't done enough to sit there and help getting back to the quarterback, because you don't have someone, and you hope it's Anthony Miller, but dependable on the opposite side of Allen Robinson, who Allen Robinson's probably been one of the best Bears receivers this last decade. I would probably take him over Brandon and Alshon. You know what I'm saying? If healthy. Last year,
Okay.
I would probably take him over there because Brandon had the drops because he had hands of stone, even though he was phenomenal. And Alshon kind of stayed hurt necessarily when he was here. But again, that was the best tandem the Bears had since the Super Bowl era, basically. You know what I'm saying? So again, with the wide receiver position, that falls on Ryan Pace. And Ryan Pace, like a lot of GMs, I'm not saying that this is just a Ryan Pace thing, they like to prove that they're right.
Once again, we are joined by Kenneth Davis. He's the co-founder of the We Are Regal Radio, independent sports media, and the D&Davis show, along with The Flip. Ken, before we go to our next commercial break, one more question in terms of the offense. The offensive line, we had struggles, but using an extra offensive lineman in the version of a tight end can also help a team as well. Does Jimmy Graham have the fountain of youth? And how do we see the Bears using that tight end position to help, not necessarily with the passing game, but also with the running game?
I think that you'll see Jimmy a little as an inline blocker, but it's really going to be the rookie Cole Kmet, who's known as kind of being more of the traditional grunt guy instead of being that hybrid Kelsey guy who you look at as more of a passer. Now, I'm not saying Kmet is a Greg Kittle, but Greg Kittle is more of the traditional I will block and I will get out here and catch the ball on your ass type of dude. So hopefully the rookie, it's hard for rookies on offense to necessarily pick up the game, but he's going to be more of the guy what you're talking about, Jason, as far as being able to help block and get out there and receive passes. I think the best thing you can get from Jimmy Graham is him just being out there on the scene receiving passes. There will be times he's going to inline block, one just to set up the defense on another play, to expect him probably to inline block, and then to skirt out and get a quick pass or something like that. But I don't even know if you want to have a Graham inline blocking, as you mentioned, the fountain of youth at his age, and him taking so many hits when really you want him out there to get the defenses kind of frazzled, and also to be a guy in the red zone that can help out your QBs.
I'm worried about Graham's age. That's why when you led with that, Jason, I was concerned about that. I'm like,
you should be.
I mean, he needs to discover the fountain of youth, because, like I said, I wasn't sitting there like, yeah, Jimmy Graham back in the day, he was a bad boy. But right now, I'm not. Ooh, that's tough right now. That's all I'm gonna say.
You know what? I kind of compare it to how the White Sox were when they brought in Nomar Mazara, and we was like, is that it?
Right.
And then some more guys, it was like, okay, now Mazara hasn't necessarily panned out, but we initially we thought we was getting screwed. Hey, I hate to say that, but they went out and they got a few studs. I would look at this, and I would look at this when it comes to Jimmy Graham. It'd be bad if they didn't draft Cole Kmet. You know what I'm saying? Because you were basically, this was going to be the guy in that room, and now he's supposed to be the guy, but he's supposed to be the guy raising up this kid.
Gotcha. That makes sense.
All right. Well, we're getting ready to take our second commercial break. Ken is going to come back. We're going to talk some more Bears football. We're going to go to the defensive side of the ball. We're going to talk special teams. Thanks for watching. What's up, Cuz?
Compassion, noun. Sympathetic pity and concern for the sufferings or misfortunes of others. We're all born with it. It's in us. Don't believe me? When you hear a baby cry, something pulls at you. You want to ease that pain. You want to soothe that hurt. No one had to teach you that. It's called compassion, and it's in you. However, at some point you turned it off when it came
to me.
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 The cries of my soul have gone unheard, but today, you will hear me.
My heart has wailed a melody loud enough to shatter your ears and you ignored me. But this week, you will hear me.
This body has beat the drums of anguish, only to be silenced. But this month, you will hear me.
This year,
this decade,
this century,
I will be heard. And
you will be the one to hear me.
And when I am finally heard,
show compassion.
Show compassion.
Show compassion.
Remember, it's in you.
Welcome back, everybody, to What's Up, Cuz. I'm your host, Jason C. Palmer, along with my cousin, the coach himself, Lanny, Irvin, and our guest today is Kenneth Davis. And once again, this is a great day to arrest the killers of Breonna Taylor as we focus on social justice issues and sports as we kind of move forward here. Kenneth, let's go back to the Bears real quick. Let's talk the defensive side of the ball. Let's talk about this Bears secondary. That might say it all.
I shouldn't do that. There was great reports today that when you look at Kyle Fuller's had a terrific training camp, intercepted Mitch twice in the last week. I don't know if it was yesterday or not. The only reason why I say that, and I mentioned this the other day, I believe on Sean and Maya. He asked me. He said, "You know what?" And he was one of the bros that kind of went away from football after Cap Nil. Right, so he was coming back into watching football, and he asked me about Eddie Jackson. Again, roll tide. I love Eddie Jackson, but his question was really, and again, I'm not patting anyone's pocket, but it's like, is he worth the money that he's getting paid? And I said it after he asked me, I said it's funny. I was thinking about him too, and I was going to take a wait and see approach. So, and I still think he's one of the better safeties in the league. But again, next to him it was clearly probably going to be Tayshaun Gibson. Over Deion Bush, even though Deion Bush may get the start initially, but it's probably going to be Tayshaun Gibson, who was released from the Texans. And then the question is on the other side, are you going to have Tolliver? You're probably going to start with Tolliver because he's been in the system a year under Chuck McConnell, or you could say longer than that if they're still using a lot of Fangio's concepts. But you got Jalen Johnson, who, listen, according to a lot of draft experts, he was supposed to be a first-round pick. Everything I read about him coming out of college, outside of just having an injured shoulder, was this dude is a dog. He went to Utah. I can't remember if he went to Utah State, but he chose that school because he was going to get the start, and so he could have went to some other prominent programs. But it seems like you may have somebody to go with Fuller. You already have Eddie Jackson, but see, this is my real problem when it comes to the defensive backs. It's Chuck Pagano, because Chuck Pagano was supposed to be the defensive backs guy. All right, like that's his lane, basically. I'm trying to say. Even though when anybody tells me about somebody doing something in Baltimore, shut up. That's all Ozzie Newsome. I don't want to hear about what coordinator was there on defense. All right, that's Ozzie. Ozzie Newsome was the coordinator of that defense, basically. All right, if you just saw on each level how they had a stud when you go from Ed Reed, Ray Lewis, even though Ray Lewis and Brian Urlacher are in the same place in my book right now. Lewis is one of the greatest middle linebackers of all time. And then you look at the fact that they had Saragusa and Haloti Ngata, like just the guys like on every level. So I don't care who your coach was necessarily. And yeah, I'm being facetious because a good coach does help you. But when you're talking about the defensive backs, I look at Chuck Pagano and I wonder, did he do something to hinder Eddie? Was it a situation where he was using both of him and Clinton Nix as basically the same kind of guy, and depending on which way the leverage as far as which offensive line of where the receivers were, it was like, all right, you can play in the box, you're not playing in the box. We know that neither one, and Jackson's a better tackler than Clinton Dix. But that was the problem with Clinton Dix when he was sitting there with Green Bay, is they didn't feel like he was a tackler, well enough tackler. So they have a good defensive backfield. That's not a question. But when I made that face, I think it was more for Chuck Pagano, because that's when we're talking about this defense. I think that's the question. All right, you saw this. I'll tell you something different. Let's go back 4 years, 5 years ago, maybe even further. Maybe it was 6. But John Fox's first year, the team basically had been stripped down. And then the defense started to play well, and you saw that. You saw effort. It was like, this defense is actually trying out here, right? Mm-hmm. Then they brought in Akeem Hicks. Then they had a star, not a superstar, but a star. Defense improved. It was a top 10 defense before number 10 basically, before Khalil Mack got there, and then Khalil Mack got there, and it shot off. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, it took it over the top. So when I look at the loss of Vic Fangio with this defense, and I still don't know. Second year with this team, I still don't know if Fangio is necessarily guy when it comes to this defense. I think this season will tell us a lot as far as that's of course if this season comes to fruition. Sure. Tell us if he's the right DC. So that's my biggest concern with the defense outside of Eddie Goldman. But
I was about to ask you that. I was going to say, will we miss Eddie Goldman? Because that's the thing I'm concerned about. Because that physical presence in a line, like how much are we going to miss him?
A lot. Listen, nose tackles aren't falling out of trees. 3-4 technique. I mean, guys, where and we can talk about how little they're in 30% in that package or whatever. But still, even if you have 4 down linemen, he would be in there. You're gonna miss him a lot. I mean, he's clearly in the top 5. And how many times were we like, "Oh, that was Eddie Goldman's fault"? Like, think about this. This just crossed my mind.
Talk to me.
Bears game. How many times have you saw something like, "Oh, that was Goldman's fault"? It's a rarity, and then we don't pay attention to center line play. It's not the sexiest thing, but dude, him being one of the guys in initial contact, I think the run game, and that's really my fear. I feel like this is going to go back to like after Lovey left, where they still had the pieces, but they started to put money on the offense, and then the Bears started getting ran on, right? It was
right up the middle.
Yeah, they were playing well. That's exactly what I'm getting at. I feel like my fear is them getting ran directly up the middle. Like that's my fear, because you're asking a lot for these players who didn't expect to get as many reps as they're going to get. And like your other stud guys are really 5 techniques. They're not. These guys aren't. They're not nose tackles. You may try to put Bilal Nichols or Roy Robinson Harris, and I don't think they will really let them sit there. Those are 5 technique guys. I mean, I guess it's going to be Jenkins' job. But yeah, that to me is going to really hurt. But like I said earlier, it's going to help that you have Robert Quinn there, because at least you can get pressure on the outsides. But again, when you don't have that push up the middle and that quarterback can just climb that pocket on days when they're playing pocket passing quarterbacks, it's going to be probably more of an issue not to have Eddie Goldman there, just not on the run game.
Because if you can't stop the run, you're in trouble.
Yeah, you sure are.
We all know that. Go ahead, Jay.
So real quick, once again, everybody, don't forget, download the app, SportsZone Chicago. You can download it on Amazon, Google Play, or iTunes. And also, make sure you check us out. If you miss a show, you can always check it out on our podcast, or you can go to YouTube and check out the show. So if you miss us live, you can still see us. And we look forward to hearing your comments from you throughout the show, too. If you got a question for any of our guests, just go ahead and type it in the box, and we'll get back to you. Kenneth, Lance got another question for you.
You know, Ken, I'm thinking about the social justice issues now with the pro sports. What's your thoughts on, should we be out doing more protests, or should we just be quiet and play? What's your thoughts? Because some people just want us to be quiet and play. And guys like me, I'm not going. So what's your thought on the NFL? Do you think the owners should do more?
I put the shirt on because I thought we was going ultra black. Shout out to Nas. No, I mean, as a human being, no one should be quiet. I mean, even if you're, I hate to say it, even if you're tone deaf, because at least we find out how ignorant you are.
Good point.
Of course, owners should do more. You're making a living off of these dudes. You know, how many people, I mean, I think most of us in some ways have had to deal with somewhat of corporate America, right? And the growth in a positive way, as far as how now you have a department that's all about diversity, usually in offices that kind of teach you how to embrace other cultures and people in there, and different days and months you celebrate stuff like that, right? That's the same goes to owners in this, you know what I'm saying? Where I'm not just saying do that because that's sugarcoating, but I mean, look at what Jerry Jones did. I mean, basically, really, I shouldn't say that.
Oh.
All owners. I shouldn't give any owner a true scapegoat just because their league is looked at as being more in line with social justice, and I'm referring to the NFL owners. All owners can really do more. I mean, because these are your employees, and the people that look like your employees are being slain for just being a certain shade. So there's no excuse when it comes to your athletes talk. Yes, but I know they have to because their prominence. Black people, all we really have is sports and entertainment. And it's funny, and I meant it to no slight. A partner, one of his friends, was telling me in his job how the CEO came to him and asked him to read and check out an email that was going to send out to everybody, kind of talking about social justice. This was right after George Floyd's murder. And I said to him, "Why are they asking you to do that?" Not taking away from how smart my friend is for them to ask him that, but the problem is that CEO just told us he has no executives that are black or of color. He has no managers that are black or of color. So you right there, you're staring at the problem right there. Like you can start fixing things in your own office by paying attention to the fact that your privilege and your desire to be in a clan. And I'm not saying that, I am saying it in a negative way, but we're clannish. That's what that's in our genes, to be clannish. All right. So your desire to have someone that looks and sounds and is agreeable to you makes it so that you don't bring in someone that you feel like you may not be able to get that connection, but you probably would if you gave someone a chance like that. Right. So by all means, I love what the NBA players did. We had me and my guys had a debate as far as should they have done it longer, and I have no problem if they would have done it longer. But sometimes I also feel like we place a lot on athletes, but unfortunately, again, getting back to what I just said, we have to because right there at the forefront. And also in the past we did. You think about the Muhammad Ali meeting we're talking about the studs of the studs. We're talking about Luke Sinda, again, of course, he was Kareem Abdul-Jabbar at that point, Ali, Jim Brown, so on and so forth, like the creme de la creme. And so these guys were putting on the line and they weren't rich. I'm saying, like, I'm not taking away from these guys being rich and doing. I love the fact they have the power because of their money to be like, you know what, when push comes to shove, you don't control me like that, you know? And I love the fact that this generation can do that. It's one of those things where if you don't like LeBron, F you to me, you know what I'm saying? That doesn't take away from you not talking about he's crying on a foul or you know, for instance, I got this problem, and I know it's a side problem. Side note.
Let me hear your problem, Keith.
All right, so I got a problem with this. This is my only LeBron issue. All
right, let me hear. I'm getting ready, Jay. I'm pulling my seat up.
When he sits there and you hear it, that kind of like the Derrick Rose MVP, that really kind of burned his side, quote unquote, right? I remember in November of that year, and of course, Derrick Rose before the season said, "Why can't I be the MVP?" But I was talking to my guys, and I said, "Guys, Derrick Rose is in a front runner for MVP right now. The Bulls had the best record at that point. I believe he may have been in the top 3 in scoring, if not number 1. I think he was in the top 3. I think his assist numbers may have been at 8 at that point. But best record. Now, LeBron had left his team and moved to another man's house, and I mean, he deserved to get MVP. No, bro. That's not how I think we're all old sports fans where everything can't be like Steph Curry's unanimous MVP, where it's like there's a reason. Everybody can't be like Mario Rivera being the first guy to go in unanimous. It's like, dude, and then again, I love Mo Rivera, but we got some players that deserve to go in unanimous.
Right.
I'm hating to say I'd rather keep that tradition until we do it for someone who's earned that honor. So that's my problem with LeBron if he has a problem with Derrick Rose's MVP, because no, you went to another man's team, and then the next year became your team. So that's my only issue. I love the fact that LeBron stands up and speaks and basically tells white people, I'm gonna do whatever the hell I want to, and y'all still gonna buy my stuff. You know, I love that, because that's what true power is, and that's the freedom you get when you get that fame and you get that type of wealth. And sometimes, and we say with athletes, they're afraid to do something like that. Mm-hmm. I'm not even knocking those guys, because I don't walk in your shoes. Should all try to do something. I need to learn how to do more in my small way to do something to make change. And I mean,
well, you know what, Ken, and I'll say this too. You know, a lot of times too, you know, you said about, you know, your friend and the company asking him to read the email before he sent it. I've been in that situation before, and thank God they asked me to read the email.
Correct.
Because I was like, please do not send this out, because y'all are so off on this. So I think, you know, we all have to do our part in the various positions that we're in, to kind of speak on the social justice thing and be responsible about it. You know, and that's my thing. You know, I think, you know, the athletes are playing a role, the entertainers are playing a role. But I mean, you could be a person who works for the local public transportation company in your city. You know, you can still do it. I think it's more people who have the normal job, so to speak, who can really kind of make a difference. But before I get you out of here, I got to ask you this. Final question about the Bears and the Bears fans. Obviously, no fans going to be allowed in the stadium this year. Fans are going to watch the games at home, but, you know, you still got COVID out there. You really going to have 25 people in your house watching the game. You know, that could be a problem itself. What are you going to do this year to watch Bears games? And what are some of the ideas you've heard of people who still want to kind of have some level of camaraderie with other fans watching the games?
Okay, so I'm gonna tell you one. I would like if my family watched the games with me. I grew up in a household that we watched sports, or if I left one room, it was on in another room. My family is not vibing with me on that, right? Like the old lady sent me off back. She loved sports when we met, right? It was, you see, that was the thing back in the days, like the 90s. It was like, I love sports, right? And then we get to watching these White Sox games. At first, 205, she was cool, right? But this is the thing. I like to watch the games at home because, one, I want to kind of rewind and kind of break down the play to see what happened. So I don't really want to be in the room. Sometimes I want to hear ignorant comments or whatever. And I'm not trying to say I'm a football aficionado, but I prefer to be able to really get into the game. That's kind of the reason why I don't live tweet, even though I should. Is because I'm rewinding, I'm checking stuff out. I'm not in real time. So be home. What I've had here is funny. Before me and Dee, when we did our last show, we had on some mentors of ours, Lawrence Holmes and Jay Hood. I'm bogus on that Jay Hood. Last year we was over Hood's house and we watched the game in his basement, and then we was like, man, too bad we can't be in your basement. And he was like, no, we're gonna do something. I was like, I'm not doing it. I mean, I'm not having anybody at my crib, but the Lawrence had mentioned as far as sitting in the backyard and doing so. So I hear people talking about socially distancing, perhaps being outside and watching the games, which, I mean, it's cool. I do miss being around people because my household, we've taken it pretty much serious, right? The people, one reason I took it serious is because my brother was dealing with cancer. He ended up passing in June.
Sorry to hear that.
Thank you. And my mom's, you know, she's an older lady, so we didn't want to bring it around her. But even after my brother passed, I'm still being serious about it because I don't think I have it, but I don't want to affect anybody with it.
Right. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing too. I mean, it's gonna be very interesting. You know, I'm not going in bars to watch games, which is something I like to do with my friends. I'm definitely not hosting this year like I have in years past, and I don't plan on going to anybody else's house. So, you know, it's gonna be very interesting. I do think some people are going to try to get creative and do some form of tailgating in certain places. But, you know, all this stuff is still risky. You know, the very fact that they're out there even trying to play these games is still something that I have a problem with. And I won't even bring up the college game. We won't even talk about that because that's a whole different animal.
So that's like 30 minutes right there.
Right. So, you know, I don't know. So, I mean, Lance, what are you planning on doing for the Bears games this year?
Man, watching it at home by myself, calling one of the Irvin brothers up, or calling my sister up, or calling one of you two talking about the game. I mean, it's too risky. And like Ken said, I'm not trying to put myself in a tough situation, nor am I trying to put somebody else. Because like I told you, Jay, my mother-in-law comes over here, Ken, every day. She's 75. She has Alzheimer's. I can't afford to get her sick. So, man, I appreciate that. So I'm going to play it safe and saying, let's go Bears. Let's go get one. Let's go get one. But no, Jay, I'm playing it safe. I watch, talk to Mike, call you. Like, how come he missed the block?
Already
what is Mitch doing? Or call Ken up, tell him Khalil Mack playing by himself, or somebody just got beat on the in and out route.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting this year. I think the text messages are gonna be going fast and furious this year. So, Ken, thanks a lot for joining us, man. I really appreciate it. We'll have you back here during the season to break down some Bear stuff, because I know that's what you really love to do. And just try to stay safe, and I'll be in touch soon. Appreciate it.
Appreciate you, Ken.
You too, man.
Yeah. Great guy, Ken. So, Lance, a couple other news items we got going on here. The Chicago Sky just defeated Indiana. They busted a dub, got 100 on them.
Oh, great.
So 175 here. It's still in first place. They got 5 games remaining in the regular season. They are the top seed in their conference, but they had some tough news there the other day.
Hey, Jay, we had some tough news. My girl, first of all, I thought we were skydiving like you and I talked about, because Stevens gets hurt, and she was averaging 12, 13 a game. Diamond this year, she goes home from the bubble for personal reasons, or like we call it, the wubble. So I was starting to worry about my Sky. They lost to the Storm again. They lost to the Liberty with people hurt. And I'm like, Coach Wade got to come up with something now, because we're playing with a short deck. And we lost 2 players that had size. Stevens is long, Diamond DeShields is long. So I'm like, ooh, but I'm glad that we won tonight. That means Vandersloot is going to have to pick it up. Parker is going to have to play big. Stephanie Dolson is, I'm not sure if she's playing again, but she has to give us quality. She has to give us quality minutes. So I think it's going to be tough. But with that being said, Gabby Williams, Jay, that we had on the show, I think Gabby is going to have to step it up more on the offensive end also.
Right. Well, when I talked to Cheyenne Parker earlier this morning after the shoot-around, one of the things she said was that everyone now has got to step up their game, and that it's now going to be meaning that more people are going to have to play more minutes because your bench is now shorter. The Sky also did make a move. They did do a trade yesterday, and then they picked someone up off of the waiver wire earlier today as well. So they did pick up 2 players to replace the 2 that they lost. But, Diamond DeShields she's been battling injury all season with that knee. They didn't give us an exact reason why she left, just said it was personal reasons. So I take it at face value. But, I think losing Stevens is really rough. That young lady was already out because she had knee issues last year. And the Sky picked her up, and she was great. Now, she's got some more knee problems, and they've already announced she's done for the season. So really a tough break for the Sky. I mean, as a coach, when you lose 2 key components like that, what is your message to your team, Lance?
Next man up, but it's tough. And you have to tell them now. It will be tough, but we can still do it. And they have veterans like Quigley, who Maya loves. They have Vandersloot. So I think with those veterans, we could probably do a little bit more. But with that being said, when you lose the 2 players like they lost, like we lost, because the Sky is my team now. I mean, it's really going to be tough. But I'm not going to count out the veterans, because with that being said, the veterans have a way to making everybody else seem like you could do more than what you could really do. So I think Copper is going to have to pick it up on the offensive end too. She's our leading scorer, so I expect that maybe some games. She's averaging like 14, Jay, but she might have to get like between 18 and 22 every night, and then that's going to put a little bit more pressure on Quigley to score more also.
Yeah, I definitely think, Copper is going to be, she kind of came out of nowhere, really turned up her game this year, and, now they're really going to be leaning on her. It's you can't replace those type of talented players, but, you are going to have to make some adjustments, and they still do have a very good team. So other news, our friend of the show who was here with us last week, Jahiza De Jesus, I did hear from her about an hour before the show, and unfortunately, she finished in second place. Lance.
Oh, not JoJo. Like,
JoJo came up a little bit short, so she did not quite make the quarterfinals in the competition.
I was voting for JoJo too. Like, I love the personality, love the energy, and you could tell when somebody really wants it. And I thought she really wanted it, so I was pulling for JoJo. She's a great person, great individual. I'm happy you brought her on the show for us to talk to her. So shout out to JoJo, and we're going to support JoJo in whatever she does in the near future.
You know, and one of the things she said was that, in our next guest, he'll be able to talk to us about this more. He's a spiritual person. He's a pastor, for goodness sakes. JoJo said that, her spiritual mission on this still continues, even though she lost in the contest. She is a holistic healer, and her story, that story she told us is quite riveting, what she had to go through just to be able to compete and just to stay alive. She was basically dead and came back to life. So this is like her second lease on life. So, she said she's just going to use this to continue her ministry of trying to, encourage people and keep moving forward. And she'll always be with our thoughts and prayers. And we'll definitely have her back on the show because, like you said, she's just got a winning personality. She's just a wonderful young lady. And I know she inspired a lot of people just by coming on our show and telling her story. So a lot of people were really kind of inspired with that. But she did come up a little bit short. That's unfortunately. But, real quick, I just want to kind of go back to the White Sox before we take our last commercial break here. They did stand pat. I'm comfortable with the move. They got a big series starting tonight. They should be playing now up in Minnesota, 3 games against the Twins. Currently tied in first place with Cleveland, who did make a couple of moves today. How do you feel about the White Sox standing pat in their playoff chances? I do think they are going to make the playoffs, but how do you feel about their chances of making a deep run?
Jay, I'm like, I think we can, but I thought we needed another pitcher. Like I said earlier, if we would have added a pitcher, I would have felt better than what I feel now. I think like Luke has been pitching great, Dallas, but we needed one more pitcher. And the bat, I think the hitting has picked it up a little bit more. We won 11 out of 13 games. You got TA is back playing well. You got Grandal playing well. So, I mean, I like where we are, but I would have felt more secure with another pitcher.
Yeah, I feel the same way. But, it is what it is. And, I don't have a problem with it. I think it was mostly a business decision as well. So, they've got some good young talent under some controllable contracts, and they're not spending an obscene amount of money. So we just hope it works out for our White Sox.
Let me say this: Dunning is the truth, so Maya won't jump on screen right now. Dunning is the truth, Maya. I just have to watch more of him, but he's the truth. I'm gonna take your word for it, Maya. But I'm not scared of you, Maya. So don't hop on the screen.
Yeah, I think Dane Dunning is the truth as well. He pitched no-hit ball for 5-6 innings the other day.
He was good.
Yeah, he was good. He was good in his first start as well. So, that's a nice surprise to have added to our roster, and especially with us not having Kopech. So we're going to go ahead and take our last break of the show, and then coming up next, we're going to talk social justice and sports with Pastor Derrick Rice.
With the people pastor. Guess we're not taking a break, cuz.
Compassion, noun. Sympathetic pity and concern for the sufferings or misfortunes of others. We're all born with it. It's in us. Don't believe me? When you hear a baby cry, something pulls at you. You want to ease that pain. You want to soothe that hurt. No one had to teach you that. It's called compassion, and it's in you. However, at some point you turned it off when it came
To me.
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 The cries of my soul have gone unheard, but today, you will hear me.
My heart has wailed a melody loud enough to shatter your ears and you ignored me. But this week, you will hear me.
This body has beat the drums of anguish, only to be silenced. But this month, you will hear me.
This year,
This decade,
This century,
I will be heard. And
you will be the one to hear me.
and when I am finally heard,
Show compassion.
show compassion.
show compassion.
Remember.
It's in you.
Welcome back, everybody. I'm Jason Palmer, your host of What's Up, Cuz, and I'm joined by the coach himself. He's also my cousin, Lance C. Irvin. And the public service announcements you've been seeing here on the show have all been produced by Deanna Reed Foster. She's a Chicago native and an actress. You can see her on Chicago PD, Chicago Fire. She's done a number of things. She's a high school classmate of mine from Lynn Bloom, and she does some really great work. And, you know, Lance, when we started this show, the concept for this show, it grew out of the unfortunate murder of George Floyd. And, you know, we've tried to keep that theme going here in the first 8 episodes of this show, that, you know, we want to talk about sports, but we also want to talk about social issues that are affecting the African-American community and bringing on a lot of guests and people who can speak to those things. So we've got 8 shows after tonight that are be in the can, and we're off and rolling. We want to thank everyone for their support. Next week we are off for the Labor Day holiday, so no show next Monday, but we will be back the Monday following, and we're going to talk Thornton and Thornridge on that show. So that's going to be the theme of that show. So I already know we're going to be coming out the box, because everybody in the South Suburbs is going to be hitting us up for that one. So, but you know, the social justice theme is a big part of the show. As you know, you can see this beautiful kind of sunsetting background for me today here in Wisconsin. I live in Kenosha County. So we all know what's been going on up here in Kenosha the last week. And, you know, it's been very tiring for me as a journalist covering all the stuff that's been going on here. But we wanted to bring on someone who could talk about just the history of social activism and social justice issues as it relates to athletics. So we're going to bring on Pastor Derrick Rice. We'll just call him the People's Pastor. You know, Derrick is your brother-in-law, and he's family for us. But we, you know, this is no different than if we just sitting in each other's houses and having these conversations. So, Pastor Derrick, thank you so much for joining us on What's Up, Cuz. How you doing?
I'm well, man. Thank you for having me. And I want to join in and say what's up, cuz, too, because I'm part of the family.
That's right. That's right. Without a doubt. Without a doubt.
What's up, cuz? You good?
What's up? What's up,
brother,
man?
Brother in love, you good?
I'm well. I'm happy to be in the number, man.
Good, good. So, Derrick, let's just come out the bat and ask you, you know, some of the history on social justice and black athletes. Take us back a little bit about that history and why it's so important to what we're seeing going on now in 2020 with NBA players, NFL, NHL, Major League Baseball, and WNBA players and what they're doing.
Yeah, I think the quote that has come to mind as I was listening to the first few minutes of a show that I heard when I dialed in is that history is best qualified to reward all research, because through the years, I mean, for decades, this issue around social justice as it relates to the way the athletes have plugged in. This is not a new thing. All the way back in 1961, Bill Russell led a group of Celtics to boycott because of social justice. 1963 was obviously the March on Washington that we just celebrated a couple days ago. But 1967, the brother that was on before me, my brother was tight. I wish I heard the entire interview. So I did not hear all that he was sharing, but I heard the piece with regard to the people in that iconic picture that we're all familiar with, where Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and Jim Brown and others are in the picture. But one of the things that history doesn't tell us is that while that picture is used now as a symbol of professional athletes that were standing in support of Muhammad Ali, who was about to have his title stripped because he was refusing to go to the Vietnam War, the truth of the matter is Bob Arum had gotten into business with Jim Brown and Bill Russell, and they stood to make money if Ali went to the army, and instead of fighting, they asked him to just fight prize fights for the soldiers. And Muhammad Ali was refusing to do that. So the truth of the matter is most of those athletes that are in that picture were actually part stakeholders in that business with Bill Arum, and they actually went to that Cleveland summit to talk Ali out of the decision that he had made. But Ali was so convicted in his spirit and the decision that he made that the story goes that when he got finished schooling those brothers, they then stood with him in the press conference saying, we came to change his mind, but he changed ours. And so now we're standing shoulder to shoulder with Ali. And so that was in 67, I guess it was. But then 68, we all know that John Carlos and Tommy Smith stand at the Olympics, black gloves on their fists, doing what we know is a Black Power salute, but they got a little afraid. Let me not say they got afraid. I'm gonna leave that alone. But they stood with their fists the way we know they stood. But then 1996, I get a little perturbed when I hear people give it up for Colin Kaepernick the way that we do and should. But we know Chris Jackson, later to be known as Mahmoud Abdul-Rauf, he was Colin Kaepernick long before Colin. He made it very clear that he was not standing for a song that supported the oppression of Black bodies all over this country. Then obviously in 2013, you got Dwayne Wade. The people don't give it up for him. He was on the cover of Ebony magazine with a hoodie on with his sons, supporting the fight that we were pushing at that time for Trayvon Martin. And then in 2016, long before he started kneeling, actually, people don't realize that Colin Kaepernick started this statement during the preseason of that football season because he recognized there was a quote that he made before the season started. I refuse to stand up and show pride for a flag that supports oppression of Black and brown bodies across this country. We are watching individuals who murder people with impunity, but get paid because they get a chance to go away on leave and not have any penalty at all. And so in short, what these brothers are doing now, not only is it not new, but it's inspired by our ancestors and other individuals who recognize that, much like Jesus, when he preached his first sermon, he said, the Spirit of the Lord has anointed me not only to preach good news to the poor, but to set captives free and to fight on behalf of oppressed people and to bring recovery of sight to the blind. These are social justice statements that Jesus made. And if we can get away from the pictures that some of us have on our walls of what he looked like, we'll understand that even that, this Black Lives Matter thing ain't new. Jesus was talking about it some time ago.
Right. So, Pastor Rice, let me ask you this as well. The women of the WNBA have been very vocal for a number of years. On social justice issues. Talk a little bit about the female athletes' roles and what they've been doing, not just in the WNBA, but also the United States Tennis Association and some of the other female sports associations as well.
Yeah, I forgot that I'm talking to a journalist, Jason. I apologize.
It's okay.
So let me say this. I should have given it up to the sisters of the WNBA because, as you well know, I appreciate you throwing me the line. Those sisters are they're actually the leaders of this social justice movement. The issue is they play before smaller markets. They play their games are on smaller television markets as well, so we don't hear it. But the truth of the matter is, the cutting edge of the sisters in the WNBA was actually the impetus for this latest wave of NBA players standing up and being strong. So when LeBron and D Rose wear the "I Can't Breathe" T-shirt, the WNBA had already started that before then, right? And so what happens here in Atlanta that I'm super excited about is the fact that there's a person who's running for Congress, for United States Senate here, Locklear, I believe is the pronunciation of her name. She is a self-avowed Trump supporter, which means by default, you know what she thinks about people of color. But she's also a part owner of one of the WNBA teams whose name I won't call right now. Well, you can say it, right? And so what happens though is these sisters say very clearly, we're making this statement. We're going to put on these jerseys what we're going to put on these jerseys because Black lives really do matter. If you got an issue with it, you can sell the team or we can not play. And so while we applaud what the Milwaukee Bucks did, we got to be honest about it and saying that even with what's my man's name that plays the point guard in Milwaukee, that was one of the leaders of the initial boycott.
Sterling Brown, right?
Yeah.
No. The old George Hill. So Hill, let's be honest about where we are. Hill got so fired up that he didn't come out for the national anthem in the first game back to the bubble. And they asked him, "Why didn't you come out?" He said, "Man, I was in the bathroom." Now, come on, George. You know why you wasn't out there standing for the anthem, right? But these sisters from the WNBA made it clear we're making a statement, we're standing on it. And some people can argue that because the money is a little bit different, the pride gets a little bit different as well. I'll leave that at that. But you also mentioned the other sports. This I can't pronounce the sister's name. Osaka, is that her name?
The tennis player, Osaka.
Man, listen, when I cannot tell you how proud I am of her being a student of the social justice movement worldwide, really, wherever people of color are, there's been some movement that we can talk about. But what's amazing to me about this sister is if you watch her burst onto the scene, she, in several interviews, used to label herself as an introverted individual who was normally a follower. Right. And she said about a week ago that she was waiting for someone in the tennis world to stand up. And God told her that maybe she was the one that needed to be the one to stand up. And so she stands up and makes the statement that she did. And I'm literally getting goosebumps on my arms because what we're seeing before our very eyes is there's an African proverb that says, together the ants have the capacity to eat the entire elephant. Right. And so here's a woman who thought just a few weeks ago that she was too much of a follower to make a statement. And now because of a statement that she's made, the world is paying different attention to this movement that's been moving since, as I laid out from the beginning, this is all tied to the March on Washington. And all of us, if we're honest about it, we allow journalists who don't love people of color the way you do, Jason, to take and hijack the message of that march. We call it the march where Dr. King spoke his I Have a Dream speech. But man, if you look at the first 10 minutes of that speech, he was wearing the yet to be United States of America out. He said, y'all have written us a bad check. It's come back insufficient funds. He said, we're tired of police brutality. He said, if y'all don't do something right now, the streets are going to get, it was so bad that even our own people were not applauding the way that they thought people thought that they would applaud. The energy wasn't good on the Washington Mall. And you can hear, if you listen to the speech very closely, you can hear Mahalia Jackson's voice in the distance saying, tell them about the dream, Martin. Tell them about the dream. And it's at that point that he pivots and starts talking about having a dream. He came to wear white folks out on that day. Read the whole speech. And that speech is talking about what we're fighting for, today.
Let me ask you this. Often, Derrick, when you and I talk, we talk about organizing, one of the strong points. What's the next step, right? We did the protest. How do we organize where we can really stand on our own? What's the next step?
I think one of the most important points to make for people who are listening is that we all remember that all politics are local, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so for me to even suggest that I have a cookie cutter response that fits all of our people for this entire country would be irresponsible, in my opinion. And so there are some areas that have done decent work, some municipalities, some cities that have done decent work, legislatively speaking, around criminal justice reform. You've got some other areas that are still way behind as far as legislation regarding voter suppression. And so what I would argue is that our responsibility is to make sure that we familiarize ourselves and join organizations that are about doing this work all of the time, because then locally, those organizations can help pave the way in terms of what the fight is in that area. For instance, here in Atlanta, just 2 or 3 years ago, we fought and were successful with legislation. It was called no money bond legislation, which made it impossible now to criminalize poverty. We recognize that our people, in Atlanta, there's the largest wealth gap between the haves and the have-nots in Atlanta than any place in the whole country. But what we have at least been able to do now is we fought vehemently around legislation that says if I get arrested for less than 1 ounce of marijuana or some sort of traffic violation or what have you, you can't hold me in jail on $100 bond, even though that sounds like nothing to big ballers like Lance and Jason. There's some people that sit in jail for 2 or 3 months because they can't pay the bond, right? And so the fight here was to fight that fight first. So I don't know what the issue is in, let's say, Plano, Texas, or let's say, Bamberg, South Carolina. But locally, the chapters of organizations like NAACP, SCLC, or here, Let Us Make Man, or others, we are individuals that are fighting the fight, and that's where you plug in. Because I'm going to be honest with you, man, I've heard some people who have respected as athletes, who I've respected in other sort of venues in terms of where they work. But everybody don't need to be standing up on no microphone talking about these issues if you don't know what you're talking about, right? So, I listen to Sirius XM, and I won't call any names, but there's a former NBA player who's smarter than what's fair. But when he starts talking about social justice, I cringe because it's like, brother, you had a good crossover. You can't talk about this, man. I mean, you got to stay in your lane and be intentional about joining organizations that are doing the work. In my opinion, that's if I had all the answers, Black folk would be free.
Well, one of the things that came out in the news, it actually broke a couple weeks ago, but a lot of people didn't know about it, was that Kareem Abdul-Jabbar has actually been nominated for Emmy Award for his narration of a show, Black Patriots, which talks about African Americans and their role in the Revolutionary War. Kareem has always been a scholar and a person who talks about these social issues, Derrick. As we're starting to see more of the present athletes take on that role, more of like a Jim Brown or a Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, what do you think it is now that has changed that has made more of them feel comfortable to come out and speak on these social justice issues?
Okay, that's a tricky question, and I think it's layered. Number one, I don't think anything has changed big picture wise. One of my favorite scholars is a brother by the name of Neely Fuller. And Neely Fuller, one of my favorite quotes from Dr. Fuller is, until we understand and acknowledge the presence of white supremacy, everything that we do understand and acknowledge will only serve as a source of confusion for us, right? And so if we're able to go through this litany of history that we did, understanding that our ancestors have been fighting against this issue of white supremacy for a long time, and we say now, well, what makes people more comfortable with speaking out now? I'm not that quick to the microphone to necessarily give it up lock, stock, and barrel more to LeBron than I would to a Kareem or a Jim Brown, or even on some levels to a Michael Jordan. Because here's the difference. Anytime you turn on CNN and MSNBC, and those Caucasian individuals every day now are willing to use the language white supremacy on international television, they've made the word a household word. And so now that white folks are comfortable with me saying white supremacy, people would have been more comfortable. Remember now, Muhammad Ali was Kareem Abdul-Jabbar's mentor. His name was Lou Alcindor when he was sitting in that picture. Mm-hmm. He became Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, and he names Muhammad Ali as his mentor every time he gets a chance. Mm-hmm. And so the reason that Kareem is not an NBA coach right now is because these white folks ain't been loving on black athletes like this all along. Remember now, Mahmoud Abdul-Rauf, Chris Jackson at the time, this dude was fined $32,000 for not standing up for the national anthem the one time he did it. Then he was suspended, and then they came to an agreement that says, we'll at least let you, if you at least stand and put your hands together and pray, we'll let you do it. So I ain't even giving it up to the NBA. Them white folks don't love us, for real. But the media has made them have to act in ways today that they did not have to act then, and so their true colors came out then, right? And so what's different? The media has expanded the playing field such that people on our side are more comfortable saying things that they can't say now, not because they're any more courageous, but because the door has been open. And I believe that the door has been open because it's an okie doke kind of thing, right? Because when the media now says white supremacy, what they mean and what we mean ain't the same thing. And here again, if we're not listening to people who study this stuff, right, we'll now have people like whatever that dude's name is on MSNBC, Morning Joe Scarborough. If Joe Scarborough gets to define for us what white supremacy is, we're going to lose every time. Because Joe Scarborough 15 years ago didn't care nothing about white supremacy. You got to ask the question why. And so what has changed? I believe that they've made it more palatable for the conversation around systemic racism to hit the airwaves, such that as long as they're still controlling the narrative, a dude like me is not going to get the microphone on MSNBC because I'm not going to let you define what that means for me. You notice if you look at it, pay attention to MSNBC. Eddie Glaude is one of my classmates from Morehouse College. And every now and again, he's intentional about ripping them white folks a brand new one. And every time he does it intentionally, you don't hear from him for 2 or 3 days. Then they let him back on because he won't let them define it, right? So there's a reason that certain people are still considered pariahs when they've been saying the same thing forever. Jeremiah Wright ought to be the mouthpiece for this country right now, but they don't want to hear his version of what he's got to say, but they're using the same language, right?
Well, one last question for you, Derrick, before we let you go here. Obviously I'm here in Kenosha County. We've had the country, and the person who's currently sitting in the Oval Office is planning on coming here tomorrow, despite the objections of many people, because we don't believe he's coming to unite this area. We believe he's coming to help divide it even more, because this is a battleground state. Many of us who live in these type of areas across the country, what type of advice do you have for Black people who do live in these areas that are battleground states politically? And, you're dealing with neighbors who have completely different opposite views of you. And you're starting to look at people, kind of sideways at some point.
So I wish I had the exact quote. But one of the many things, obviously, that Dr. King was anointed and super gifted at is while he was speaking that first part of that speech the way that he did, and he made it clear that y'all wrote a rubber check. He would always make sure that in his delivery that he would warn in the midst of his organizing our people to not allow our anger to turn to bitterness, such that we would allow this fight that we're fighting to become the physical fight that white folks want us to allow it to become, right? And so my advice to the people in that area is to continue to organize. Join the organizations that are doing the work. I was shocked. I don't mean to cast any aspersions, but the brother from the NAACP was nowhere near as sharp as the brother that represented the Urban League in the press conference that I heard. That brother, he went hard.
I had to cover that.
Wow. Yeah, I was impressed with him. And what I'll offer is, as the microphone continues to get shoved into our faces, which it will, we need to have as many documented opportunities to hear people like Jason, the brother from the Urban League, and others to say, this is not about anarchism. This is not about violence. This is not about, so that when the others try to hijack the narrative, we can then show, well, no, we got all these interviews where we said this, but we weren't about out here trying to loot, trying to do anything. And stop using the word looting. We're not looting. This is an uprising. This is the language of oppressed people who've been oppressed for generations, right? This is what happens when uprisings take place. So we're not looting. We are uprising. We are acting as a result of trauma. And anyone who's been traumatized does stuff that don't make no daggum sense, right? Let's look at how the person in the White House got there. Folk did stuff that didn't make sense because of trauma. So what I would argue is that we organize, and make sure that we keep the reins in terms of the narrative, so that when people like the one who's coming to visit against the mayor and the governor's suggestion, when he tries to say that Black folks are just wild and be afraid of them, all of our documented interviews show the opposite.
Yeah. Well, Pastor Derrick, we really appreciate you coming on today and talk about these important issues as it relates to sports and social justice. And we will see you soon once we can all get down there in Atlanta. Best, and send our love to you and your lovely wife and your daughter.
I appreciate you. Let me tell you two things now. I'm on the market. I'm taking interviews. I don't have no wife. I know the world is listening to y'all. We don't want nobody out here. Hey, Jason said that.
I'm about to start another revolution down there.
Tell you, this is why I put on my blue shirt. You don't know who was watching today. But I'm gonna do one better. Instead of waiting on you all to come visit me, I'm driving to Chicago the next couple of days. So I'll see Lance soon, and I'll see you the next time you over that way, man. I love you. I mean that, man.
You know what, Derrick, man, I appreciate it. We can't stress the organizing enough. And tell my nieces I said hello. Love you. Appreciate you.
I appreciate you, man. Love you. All right.
All right. Pastor Rice is there. Lance, that's your fault, man. Why didn't you tell me, man? That's what we have these pre-show meetings for.
Man, you the one, your light came on and your vision got brighter and you started asking questions. I could barely ask a question. You woke up. You woke up on your subject.
That's how I'm in the middle of the hot zone right now. I'm in the hottest zone in the country, and we gotta do what we gotta do.
Let me add this before we get off there. I don't know if we talked about it, but John Thompson passed away today, and I don't know, and I'd be, I would feel bad if I couldn't talk about Big John. He paved the way for coaches like myself, players like myself. He was a great guy. Him and my father, they used to have great conversations at camp. So we're going to miss you, Coach Thompson. Rest in heaven, and thank you for all the things you did for us.
Without a doubt. Well, that'll do it for this episode of What's Up, Cuz. Episode number 8 is in the can. We'll be off next week. You all have a very safe Labor Day weekend, and we will see you in 2 weeks for the Thornton versus Thornridge show. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Jason Palmer. Everybody, good night.
Call him Melvin Eli. We get Melvin Eli on.